And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us. And one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it, and that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tells. I'm your host, Brandon. Tonight we're joined by my guest, Al. Thanks for coming back to the show and talking with me again.
Hey, no problem. Thank you. The pleasure's all mine to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, not a problem. We talked a couple, I was going to say maybe a year and a half ago. You're on a Halloween episode about Dogman stuff, but you've got plenty of different experiences to dive into. So before we get into it, if you want to let the audience know a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Al Santariga, a.k.a. the Squatch father. That's what they call me. My mom was a psychic. My brother was one of the first parapsychologists in the United States. The paranormal was normal in my house. I had an aunt and I had 2 aunts that were white witches and a cousin who was a black witch. And growing up in my house, like I said, the paranormal was normal. I thought it was like that in everybody's house until I got older and started telling my friends what we were experiencing, and they thought I was nuts. But I mean, it is what it is, and I don't claim to be psychic, but I have all the clairs. And what I mean by that is, if I'm on an investigation, I'll get pulled somewhere. I can't just go into a room and read the room. I could feel energy. I could taste, smell, hear, and sense stuff. But I just can't go in it and do like my team psychic. She reads everything over the phone. She lives in Arkansas. She's 5th generation. She's Native American, and she reads everything through me. She says I'm a conduit. But you know, I am sensitive to energies, and I mean, every time I go out, something's happened. You know what I mean? A lot of people go out and nothing happens. And even on the nights that I consider to be crappy nights, like nothing's happened, when you add everything up at the end of the night, it's still pretty exciting night. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just not up to par for me. But yeah, I mean, you know, I run the Bronxville Paranormal Society. That's my team. I also am director of the New York State UFO Project, New York State Dogman Project, the North American Dogman Project. I'm Region 3 director, and the New York State Sasquatch organization. So you know, I wear a lot of hats, but the parent company was the BPS, the Bronxville Paranormal Society, and that's where you'll find me most of the time. But you know, it's just I'm happiest when I'm out in the field investigating, and it doesn't matter if I'm 4 miles deep in the woods squatching, or doing a CE5 over the Hudson River, or in a haunted hotel somewhere doing an investigation. As long as I'm outside investigating, that's where I'm the happiest.
Yeah. So you had been doing this for a very long time, like
a lifetime. Yes.
What was one of the reasons that drew you into it? Like, did you have an experience at an early age? I know you mentioned with your family history and stuff, like, but was there an event that you can recall that really drove you to this?
Well, my very first experience happened when I was 5. My grandmother, who lived with us, passed away. And, you know, my parents and my grandparents were from Italy, from the other side. And when she passed away, I got her room. I got her room, I got her bed, I got her pillow, her blankets. And one night I was sleeping in her room, and we had just come back from the wake. Back then they would wake a person for like 3 days, and the funeral parlor was like across the street from the building where I lived. And every night, when my mother would put me to bed, my grandmother would come and tuck me in. And, she would talk to me in Italian and say, don't worry, I'm just here to make sure you're okay, and, tuck you in. And I tell my father, and he didn't believe in ghosts, even though he's seen one run through the engine block of his car. He didn't believe in ghosts. And he was like, oh, your grandmother's across the street, And my mother, who was psychic, she had psychic abilities. I would tell her, and she would say, yeah, don't worry about it. And she's just here to tuck you in. And she did that for like the 3 days that we waked her. And then after we actually buried her, she stopped coming to see me. So, at a very early age, I started experiencing stuff.
Mm. It's always seems to be the case when I've talked with other people is there's always like the younger age that something happens. There's like an experience, and I don't know if it's because children are more open to stuff, but a lot of people that have like a lot of experiences, it does start similar around, if I remember right, I heard this before. I think it was like between the ages of 4 to 7. Between 4 and 7 is like the most common when children start having like experiences, especially like with stuff like paranormal or UFO related.
Yeah, I had my first UFO experience at 10, and my first Bigfoot experience at 12. And like I said, my family did practice. They did seances, and they read tarot cards and stuff like that. So when I was younger and I'd go over in one of my cousin Anthony's house, sleep over for a weekend, or my cousin Dino's house, the adults would always go into the dining room, and they would either read tarot cards or do seances. And I remember a few times me and my cousins creeping out along the hallway in the dark, in the shadows, watching, and watching the candelabras dancing, going from a flame that's an inch high to a foot back down to an inch.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty wild stuff. So I mean, my brother had a whole library of books in his room for everything under the sun, and as soon as he finished reading it, I would attack it and I would read it. So growing up, I had my own personal library in the room next door. My brother was much older than me, and so it was just like I said. My sister has had life experiences, near death experiences and stuff, and her, like my mother, are sensitive and to energies as well. So my brother, who was like the one who really dove into it, had went into California to get his degree in parapsychology. He's like the one guy who had the least amount of experiences. I don't ask me why. I don't know.
It seems to be how it works.
Seen one UFO. He's had a couple of paranormal experiences in houses that he was in, and I think once when he was out hunting in Connecticut, he tracked a Bigfoot in the snow until it went up a cliff face. It went straight up a cliff, and he was like, "Yeah, I can't get up there, so I don't know where it went." But that's the closest he's ever come to seeing a Bigfoot or anything like that. Yeah.
That's the one thing that I can't say that I've ever encountered as a Bigfoot. So hopefully soon we'll see what happens. But
well, then this is what you have to do. You have to get yourself out in the woods, and you have to get out there at night, because that's when they're most active. And you have to find a location that's very squatchy. Look for X's, breaks, bends, twists, arches, all of that stuff. When you find a location that has all of that in one location, hunker down there, and they will come. And if they're in the area, they will come to see who's there.
Yeah.
And then you'll have your experience, because you'll never find them.
Yeah, they will
they have
find
to
me.
come to you. Yes. Yeah. And if you're in their location, especially a location that has all of that sign, and they're around that time of the year, they will definitely come in and see who's there. There's no doubt in my mind about it.
When it starts to warm up, we're going to be out doing some documenting and stuff, and we've got some locations mapped out from people who've had sightings and stuff here recently in certain areas. So I've got everything planned. It's just a matter of not being negative 10 degrees outside to try and
I hear you. But you know what?
Too.
They're probably not going to actually come in too close if you got cameras rolling. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I know you're doing a documentary and everything. You have to have cameras rolling, but you'd be better off with just running audio and shutting the cameras off and just sitting there. And I don't light fires because I don't want to burn the woods down. I use glow sticks for ambient light and just sit there and having a conversation or listening to music. I do things to bring them in. I'll play Native American music. I'll use incense. I'll fill the woods up with aroma. I have a couple other little things I do as well. But if you do one of those two things or both, and they're in the area, they will definitely come in to see who's there.
Mm-hmm. We'll have the cameras with us, but they're not going to be rolling the whole time. I'm just going to sit out there and we're just going to wait and see what happens. I'll have a thermal on me and I'll check around for that. But other than that, I'm not going to just be out there filming nonstop of nothing.
Yeah, because, like I said, if you have cameras rolling, they won't come in. They'll stay just out of reach. They'll stay in the shadows. They'll stay behind trees. They'll stay behind big rocks, stuff like that. But if the cameras are off and the audio's going, they don't care about audio. For some reason, it doesn't. They don't bother with it. But they'll come in. You know what I mean? I've had them come in and surround me, and I was with a couple of ghost hunters who were scared out of their mind, and I said, don't worry about it. They were like freaking out. Oh, how are we going to get out of here? And I was like, don't worry. When they want us to leave, they'll open up a path for us to leave, They just want to let us know that they're here, But, it's a very exciting experience. You'll hear the whistles, you hear the whoops, you'll hear the knocks, you'll hear the tree knocks, the wood knocks, the rock knocks, you know what I mean? They can come in like a herd of elephants and let you know they're there. Or they can creep in on their belly and you'll never know they're there. I don't know how they do it, but I've had one come as close to me as 7 feet, snuck up behind me 7 feet. And I was out in the woods with a friend of mine who was an alphabet agency guy, and he had his night vision goggles on. And they didn't record. They were just night vision goggles. And he was flipping out because he's seen it. He's like, Al, it's like 20 feet away. Al, it's like 10 feet away. Al, it's like, 7 feet away. And I'm like, relax, dude. We're at the sacred site. Nothing's going to happen. He was afraid they were going to grab me and drag me off, And I said, no, because I don't let anybody bring any guns out with me. That's the one thing. If I'm not carrying a gun, you're not carrying it. I don't care if you are a federal agent. You're not carrying a gun with me because I can't trust you. I don't know how people are going. Everybody reacts differently in their presence. You know what I mean? And you may think you're going to act one way, but what I tell everybody is when you see these things up close and personal, your brain can't comprehend what your eyes are seeing because they're so massive. They're just so massive. And he was freaking out. He thought they were going to pull me up. And I actually had a camera going, but it was pointed in the wrong direction. They came in from behind the camera, and I got up to try to make like this smooth move. I was going to get up like I was stretching and turn the camera around. But as soon as I touched that thing, they were gone. Boom. So, like I said, just find yourself a really, really squatchy location and hunker down, and they'll come to you.
So I know there's a few different spots that had multiple Bigfoot sightings and a couple that have multiple werewolf, which I say are dogmen, but the people
Yeah,
that told
Dogman. Yeah,
people that told me
absolutely.
about it called them werewolves.
Yeah, that's
But,
what people call them because that's the only reference we have. Growing up as kids, we see werewolf movies. And then when you see one of these things in real life, if you've never heard of the term dog man, that's the first thing you say is like,
right.
I seen a goddamn werewolf.
Yeah.
Like what the hell was that?
Yeah. That's what I first thought when I saw the first one I'd seen. So I didn't know what a dog man was till after that. When I figured out what things were by diving into it to see, because I seen an upright walking dog. I didn't know what the fuck it
Yeah.
was. So, but no, that is there's multiple places around here that I've got mapped out. I've got like a map up on the wall with little yarn. I've done my whole crap with it to try and map everything out.
A whiteboard going
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
okay.
So I've got
No,
the
that's
court.
cool. Yeah, absolutely. I don't go looking for the dog man. As a matter of fact, we just went out in the beginning of November to Sacred Site. We were just doing we were actually squatching, and the dog man is at the east end of the woods, and the Bigfoots are on the west side of the woods, and there's a 52-acre lake in between us. And we actually got the dog man. The dog man went off while we were there. I like to do day night because I'm all into energy and everything. And like I have 250 readings that I do, and I do like that 250 readings like 10 times because every time I introduce something into the atmosphere, the readings change, and I have to go through all the readings to see which ones changed. And the same thing when they come in, the readings will change. And we had a dog man go off, and my cousin was with me, and he had never experienced a dog man before. I mean, not up close and personal. He never heard one. And as soon as the dog man stopped going off, the coyotes went off, and we recorded everything, and it was pretty wild. I mean, it was crazy. It seemed like there was 30 coyotes, and they were just losing their mind. And then they were starting to calm down, and I think the dog man went off again, and he got them all started again. And he never came up to the sacred site because, again, that's Sasquatch territory. But at the end of the night, when we came down off of the sacred site and we came down to the lake, he came over to the west side of the lake, and he was standing up on a little hill above us, maybe 100 feet behind us. And he screamed again. He went off again. And it went right through my cousin and into me. And we're 4 miles deep into the woods. And my cousin was like, the dog man? I go, yeah, that's the dog man. And he goes, okay. So look, he goes, what are we going to do? I said, we're just going to hike out of here, And he says, okay, let me know when when you want to stop for a break. Cause I usually stop like every 2 miles for water and a 10-minute break. Cause I'm 62 years old. I'm carrying a 60-pound pack. You know what I mean? And I heard this thing scream, and we were on the west side of the woods. And to me, that told me, because we hadn't had any Bigfoot experiences all night, that told me that the Squatches weren't there for it to be on the west side of the woods. Because if the Squatches were there, they would have herded us out. They always herd us out. And there's always like 2 or 3 of them. And I don't think the dog man would have came over to that side of the woods if we had 3 Bigfoots behind us, herding us out. So, but yeah, the dog man, he's a whole different animal. I made a deal with him many, many moons ago. I won't go to your house. You don't come to mine. I was actually a little freaked out. I was hoping he didn't come back to my house after that experience, because I kind of felt, and I don't know if it's just my own paranoia, my own imagination, when he went off the first time, he was by his den,
Right.
on the east side of the woods. But I felt like he was screaming at me, like he had caught my scent or something, and he was screaming at me because he was screaming up, and the sacred site is in a high plateau off the main trail, and I felt like he was screaming at me. And then when we were hiking out and he came over and he was on that little hill, and he just like looked down at us and he screamed at us again. I felt like it was personal towards me. Like I told you not to come back here, but I wasn't on his side of the woods, so I didn't give a shit, but it was, it's not. I was worried, not so much for myself, but for my cousin. You know what I mean? Because I told his father I'd bring him home in one piece, and so I was like, man, if he gets in front of us, if he flanks us, we're gonna have to fight our way out of here, And all we had were 18-inch machetes and 10-inch survival knives. I don't know how far we would have got,
Right.
but I mean, it's just, crazy stuff like that happens. So yeah, this is a place of high strangeness. There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on there. And I'm going to get into an experience that happened here in 2015 where like everything under the sun happened,
Okay. Yeah. Now, what location, like you don't have to give the exact point, but like what part, like kind of where general area where you're at?
I'm in the mid Hudson Valley in New York State.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right in the middle of, upstate New York and downstate New York. You know what I mean? If you come from upstate, I'm downstate. If you come from downstate, I'm upstate.
Okay.
It all depends on where you're coming from. But I'm right in the middle. It's called the Mid Hudson Valley. Southern Catskill region, southern tier of the Catskill region. Catskill Mountains here in New York State are 500,000 acres.
Okay.
And I'm at the southern tip of those. And then further up, we have the Adirondacks, and that's 6 million acres. But it's a whole different animal.
Yeah. So for me, when I've only been to New York once. We went up by Buffalo to go up to Niagara Falls.
Okay.
So I was only up there for a day to go to Niagara Falls, but I've never been anywhere else in New York, so I'm not really familiar with all that. Like when someone says New York, the first thing I think of is New York City.
Yeah, everybody thinks of Manhattan. Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
So no one thinks about the fact that it's not that sort of a jungle of the Manhattan buildings and mountains of that, but there's actually wooded areas. There's mountains.
We have a lot of natural forest here in New York. I mean, like I said, the Adirondacks are 6 million acres, and the Catskill Mountain regions are like 500,000 acres, and we have a lot of state parks that are anywhere from 1,500 acres to 5,000 acres. You know what I mean? We have a lot of wood land in New York State. Yeah, a lot of campsites and stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't think about stuff like that unless you're actually around there and involved in it. But like when I talk to people that aren't from America, like you don't think about how big our country actually is size wise.
Oh yeah, our country's huge. Absolutely.
Until you talk to someone else, they're like, they drove all the way across to England and it was like an 8-hour drive. I'm like, shit, that's only going to get me to like 2 states down.
That'll get you to Ohio.
Right. So it takes me 8 hours to get to Nashville. So, but no. Well, if you want to dive into it from what happened in 2015.
What state are you in now?
I'm in Indiana.
Oh, you're in Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay.
North Central Indiana.
Nashville is like southwest of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2015, my tech guy and my camera guy, we decided to go do an investigation. Found a location with a lot of high strangeness involved in it. There was a lot of Bigfoot reports on the BFRO page, according to along the Appalachian Trail here. And there were also a lot of reports of UFOs siphoning water out of the lake and balls of light going in and out of the lake. And so me and my camera guy decided to do a little recon of the place. And we were hiking along the Appalachian Trail, and we were maybe 4 miles in, and we were on the eastern side of the lake. And it's like I said, it's a 52 acre lake. And we were up on a high ridge. We just ended up on the way the trail went, we ended up on a high ridge. But off the trail, I seen 3 quartz crystal stones set up like in a pyramid shape, And I was like, "Oh, this is interesting. Maybe we'll start here, and then we'll work our way back to the meadow." We labeled one area called the meadow, and then we'll finish up at the campsite on our way out. So we started at the furthest point in to work our way out. So he's like, okay. So we checked that we marked these 3 spots, and so we go out there. We're doing a day-night investigation, and we really didn't know what to expect. Honestly, it was Halloween. It was going to be a full moon that night. There was going to be a meteor shower that night as well. And we get out there, and we get to the first location. We called the psychic. She said, "Okay, this location, you're gonna see like." And my psychic will tell us stuff like what we're going to experience, and we will laugh at her like she's high. Okay, like Cindy, what are you smoking? You know what I mean? She said, "Okay, this location, you're gonna have a Sasquatch experience, and you're gonna have a Dogman experience, and you're gonna see a UFO." And we're 3 guys from the city, like, come on, lady, what are you nuts? Look at all of this stuff is gonna happen at our first location. And we took it with a grain of salt, And she said, "Call me later, because I like to do a day night, the energy changes from day to night." And we had these 3 quartz crystal stones set up as a pyramid. So I brought a rose quartz skull, and my tech guy Brian brought a crystal skull, and we were going to try to get the rose quartz or the crystal skull to transfer energy over to the rose quartz. Okay, we wanted to see if we can film energy transferring over from one skull to the other on these 3 quartz crystal stones, And we're trying it, and we're doing all kinds of stuff, and not having much success with anything. Put a compass on it, really didn't move any. Again, I like to go old school, new school, because sometimes the new school stuff don't work, and the old school stuff works great. And so we weren't having a lot of success with everything. So I said, okay. I pulled out a thermal imager, and I'm filming in thermal. We had a full spectrum going, an IR camera going, a thermal camera, and a regular camera going. And I had the actual thermal in my hand. And the stones were ice cold. There was nothing happening with the stones. So I said, okay, you know what? Let's try something. And I pulled out a Tibetan singing bowl, and I filled the woods up with the frequency from the bowl. And everything changed. My teeth started tingling. I had a metallic taste in my mouth. I started filming the quartz stones again. Now the stones in thermal are white hot. Okay. We're not getting any transfer of energy, which we were trying to get, but the stones are white hot. So I tell my tech guy, I said, "Dude, touch the stones. Let me know if they're hot. They're white hot in the thermal imager." It's like, "I'm not touching those stones. Are you crazy? I don't know what we did to this stuff." And I'm like, "You got to touch the stones. You got to let me know." He's like, "I'm not touching the stones, Al. You're crazy." So I said, "Here, you film. I'll touch them," because I wanted to see if they were really as hot as what they were appearing on the thermal. And I touched them, and they were ice cold. So he says, "Oh, let's call the psychic again." And then I had a parabolic mic going, and we caught like a Morse code coming out of the sky on a parabolic mic. It was crazy, and everybody was throwing theories up in the air, and they were saying, "Oh, maybe there's like radiation in the trees because at this location they used to mine weapons grade uranium, and there was an explosion at the facility that went into the lake, and the lake was polluted, and all this crazy stuff." And one guy saying, "Well, maybe there's radiation in the trees." Another guy was saying maybe it's some kind of tower, that's putting off a signal. And I'm saying, well, maybe it's just a UFO in the sky that looks like a cloud. You know what I mean? But something, we're definitely getting something. So we called the psychic back, and the psychic couldn't talk. She's like, move, move. I can't. Like, we couldn't understand what she was saying. It sounded like she had cerebral palsy. She could not talk. And she's like, what the hell did you guys do? And I was like, well, we ramped up the energy with a Tibetan singable. We introduced frequency and vibration into the investigation to see what we could get. And she's like, all bets are off now. She goes, you guys just went crazy. These woods are, you changed all the energy. I had to literally go like 100 feet from where I was for her to be able to talk to me over the phone. So I said, okay, all bets are off. Let's see what happens. So we're sitting there, and it gets dark. We got headlamps, but the headlamps are off. We got glow sticks in front of us for ambient light. And the moon comes up, and the coyotes are going off on the west side of the lake because of the full moon. And the coyotes are going nuts, which sets off the dogs in a kennel on the east side of the lake. And the dogs are going crazy, and the coyotes are going crazy. And we're sitting there, and I got the parabolic mic going, and I hear something walking over towards us, something really heavy and big. Boom, 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 walking over. So I give it to my tech guy. He listens. I give it to my camera guy. He listens. And I'm thinking, I go, man, I wonder if it's another paranormal group out here because it's Halloween, you know. We should cover the glow sticks so no one sees where we're at, our location. And they both looked at me like I had two heads. And they're like, Al, what are you talking about? What's ever walking over here has got to weigh like 1,000 pounds. That's not another dude in the woods investigating, you know?
Right.
And I was like, oh, I said, yeah, you know, it kind of did sound like that. But I was thinking, you know, maybe, and again, we were in the woods a long time, and maybe the energy was taking effect of me. And I was thinking it was probably another team. So we're sitting there, and we hear whoop, 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 three, the most loud, powerfulest whoops you've ever heard in your life. And we were up on a ridge, 50 feet up above the ground level. And this thing was maybe 100 yards away from us in the tree line. Couldn't see it on any of the cameras, but it let out these three giant whoops that went right through us. Hit you like a bass drum at a Metallica concert, man. It just went right through us. And the camera guy's like, what the hell is that? And I go, I know what that is, you know. And I go, that's a Bigfoot. There's a Bigfoot down there, you know. And so he's like, well, maybe we should leave. You know, we should get out of here. And I was like, nope, not ready to go. I think there's still more to come, you know. So we hunker back down. We didn't hear anything. We hunker back down, and we're sitting there, and we're just talking amongst ourselves. And this Sasquatch throws a stone the size of a bowling ball up over the top of the trees. Now you got to imagine, we're 50 feet up on the ridge. The trees are 50, 60 feet high. This thing went up over the top of the trees, and it came down perfect in between all three of us. And it rolls, and it hits my tech guy's chair. And my tech guy goes, I think it's time to go. And the camera guy goes, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, no. I still feel like there's more to come. I don't want to leave too soon. And they're like, Al, you're out of your mind. We got to get out of here, you know? And I'm like, no, I just feel like there's more to come, you know? Let's just hang out a little bit longer. So we hang out. We never heard the Sasquatch walk away, although we heard him walk in. So we're sitting there, and we're talking, and we got like a 3-foot stone wall behind us. We got a lot of these stone walls on the East Coast that just run in all directions in the woods, you know? I don't know if they were made during the Revolutionary War to sit behind them to shoot at, or, you know, to shoot the English or whatever, but they just run in all different directions. And my cameraman is sitting up against the wall. I'm sitting in the middle, and my tech guy is to my right. All of a sudden, we hear something, a quadruped, come running up the ridge. Bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. This thing is coming, bada boom, bada boom. And it's all on all fours. And I'm thinking, crap, this is either a black bear or a mountain lion, coming up the ridge. And my tech guy gets up and he starts to run past me because he's up against the wall. And this thing is on the other side of the wall coming up the ridge. And I reach out with one hand. I never took my eyes off of where the sound was coming from. And I stopped him. And I don't even know how I did it. I just stopped him and I spun him around. I said, stand your ground. And he was to my left. My tech guy was to my right. They were in a little bit more of a clearing behind me. So they pulled out their machetes. I was more in between the trees. So I pulled out my survival knife. And I'm thinking, man, this mountain lion is going to hit this wall and he's going to jump right at my neck. And I'm going to have to sacrifice my left arm and kill it with this survival knife, And this is what's going through my head. And it's coming up the ridge and we hear it coming. And I say, put your headlamps on. We all turn our headlamps on to see what's coming. And the sound comes right up to where we are and stops. And we're all waiting for something to come over the ridge, over the wall. And I had a little Sony digital camera hanging around my neck. I took one photograph of where I thought it stopped. And, you couldn't see anything on the back of the camera because it's really tiny. And I just dropped the camera back down and we waited. Nothing came over. We didn't hear anything run back down the ridge. We didn't hear anything jump down into the swamp. So I said, grab the cameras. Let's go over the wall. We went over the wall and we pointed the cameras in all the directions. And we didn't see anything. And my camera guy had a 1500 luma flashlight and it lit the woods up like daytime. And we did not see anything. We don't know where this thing went to or how it left or nothing. And we just stood there and baffled. We were just baffled because there was nothing on any of the cameras that we were filming on. And at that point, they were like, can we leave now? And I was like, okay, we can start packing up. Let's just take our time packing up in case something else happens,
Mm-hmm.
So we packed up. And as we were leaving, my cameraman, my tech guy, Brian, says, you know what? I'm going to have, he was filming with a little camera, a night vision camera. He said, I'm not going to pack the camera. I'm going to leave it out in case we come across something. I don't want to be that guy who doesn't have the camera running,
Mm-hmm.
So I said, all right, bro, you leave your camera out. We packed up all the rest of the gear and we're walking across this really treacherous, rocky formation. I mean, you have to be a billy goat to go across this shit. And I see this silver strobe light in the sky going from west to east. I'm wearing a stone. That night, I'm wearing a stone. It's called an alien stone. It puts out the frequency for aliens. Okay, I forgot the name of it. It's like a green stone. It's part of a meteorite, and it's very rare. They mine it in Romania or something, right? But I was told it puts out an alien frequency. And I'm wearing it stone because I want something to happen that night. I don't know if anything's going to happen. So I see this thing in the sky and I go, oh, God, please don't let these guys get abducted because of me. Because I'm wearing this stone, But I'm not telling anybody what I'm seeing because I want to get across this treacherous part of these rocks to get back on the Appalachian Trail to get to the meadow. When Brian says, what's that? He sees it. He pulls up the camera and he's filming it. Now it's not silver anymore. It's orange and it's red and it's silver. And he's filming it. And it stops in the middle of the sky like it's seen us. And it makes a beeline, comes right over to us. And I tell everybody, shut off your headlamps. We shut off our headlamps. And I text cameraman Bill, go build time check. And he's like 9:00 or something like that. Like, okay. So we do a time check. We shut off the cameras. and this thing hits us with a floodlight, and it lights up the woods around us. And we're underneath this floodlight looking up at this craft, and it's making this electrical hum. And again, everybody goes into debating with theories. What is it? It can't be a drone. You know, it's not a helicopter. What is it? Bada beep, bada boop. And we're all talking, you know, nonsense, trying to figure it out. When all of a sudden I say, let's step out of this light because we don't know what it's doing to us. And Brian thought it was downloading us. That's what he thought. And I said, let's step out of this light because we don't know what's going on here, you know? So we step out of the light. When we stepped out of the light went off. It shrunk up, it disappeared, and the craft took off and it flew across the lake. And in a blink of an eye, it was gone. Boom. So we stand there for a minute and we discuss what just happened. Like, holy crap, did that just happen? And Brian's like, I got it on video. I got it, baby. That's why I didn't put my camera away, you know? And we're all like, oh, this is awesome. And we head over to the meadow. We get to the meadow. We set up the cameras in all different directions. We call Cindy again, the psychic, and we say, okay, Cindy, what's going to happen here? And she said, okay, here you're going to see balls of light, but they're not really balls of light. They're fairies, she says. Like, okay, they're fairies. And she says, you're going to see gnomes. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to see gnomes. She's talking about gnomes and fairies. And you're going to see shadow figures. And there's going to be a Bigfoot here as well. And you're going to have all kinds of experiences at this location. Okay. Now, I had heard from the Native Americans in the area that if you see balls of light in the woods, do not follow them. They will lead you to your demise. Okay.
I've heard that
So
too.
I told Brian, I said, you bring your green laser, I'll bring my red laser. And if any of these balls of light should show up, we'll hit them with the lasers and we'll see what happens. Right. So I'm facing south. Brian's facing me, actually facing north. Bill is up looking east and west, filming the meteor shower. Oh, and when the Bigfoot whooped the 3 times, the coyotes and the dogs shut right up. That was the end of them. You didn't hear it. You didn't hear the end. You didn't hear them for the rest of the night. So we're sitting there, and I'm seeing 7-foot shadow figures jumping from tree to tree. Not just 1 or 2, but like 4 or 5 of them. And I'm telling Brian, do you see these shadow figures jumping from tree to tree? And Brian's like, yeah, I see them, you know, and I'm taking photographs of them and we're filming them with the cameras. And Brian goes, but I see something back there moving, man. Something small is running around back there. So the camera that Bill was using, Brian and Bill had rigged up another screen on it, you know, a bigger screen. So we actually had the camera viewfinder and this other screen that we had hooked up. Both of them had SD cards in them. So Brian says, Bill, come here. Film back over Al's shoulder. So Bill is standing up, filming. He's to my left. He's filming the woods where Brian says, between this giant rock and this tree, film over there. I'm seeing movement. Brian is standing over my shoulder. I'm holding this screen. Brian's looking down at the screen with me. And we see a gnome come out from behind the rock. And it runs over to this tree. And it goes from one tree to the other. And it goes from west to east. Now, we all seen this, all 3 of us, and we look at each other and we say, did we just see what we seen? Is it possible we just seen what we seen? And, you know, all 3 of us can't be having the same hallucination, right? So Brian says, keep filming. So we're filming, and another one comes out from behind the tree, and it runs over to the other tree. So Brian says, oh, we got to go over there, man. We got to see what's going on over there. So we all get up and we go over and we check behind the rock and the trees, and there's nothing there. But Bill and Brian are giddy as schoolgirls because he goes, we got this on our SD cards. We got it on two SD cards. We caught gnomes running through the woods, and everybody's really excited. So we go back to the camp, the base camp, and I say, film the trees with all of our cameras because I'm seeing shadow figures jumping from tree to tree. And when we filmed the trees, and these trees didn't have any leaves on it, this was Halloween. We filmed the trees. There's nothing but branches. But when you look at the trees through the IR camera viewfinder, all you see are these silver balls hanging from all the branches. It looks like a Christmas tree with ornaments on it. And we're trying to figure out what the hell we're seeing in the IR light, because when we put the 1500 Luma flashlight on it, all you see are branches. But you shut the flashlight off and you see all these little balls like orbs. So we're debating on what the hell we're seeing when over on the east side of the lake, I see two balls of light come up out of the ground behind this one bush, and these two balls of light come up and they're starting to rise up along the cliff face of the lake. And I say, Bri, grab your laser. I go, Bill, get your flashlight. I said, on 3. Brian, you hit the one on the right. I'll hit the one on the left. Bill, you hit the whole area with your flashlight. Let's see what happens to these balls of light, because maybe they may turn into a creature or something, So on 3, we hit these balls of light with our lasers. Bill lights up the woods with his 1500 Luma flashlight, and these balls blink out. They don't turn into anything. They don't go anywhere. They just blink out, and they don't come back the rest of the night. Okay? So now we're sitting there, and we're discussing all this crazy stuff we're experiencing at this location when we hear what sounds like a family coming down the Appalachian Trail, right? And we're like, who the hell is hiking the Appalachian Trail at night with their kids on Halloween? They should be out trick-or-treating.
Right.
But you can literally hear 2 little kids giggling and laughing and like kicking stones, and 2 adults murmuring. Now, we're 3 grown adults sitting in the dark with 18-inch machetes, 10-inch survival knives. So I say, maybe we should put our headlamps on, so when these people come out into the meadow, they see us and we don't freak them out, So we put our headlamps on and everything so they could see us. And we hear the sound of them walking comes right up to the entrance of the meadow from the Appalachian Trail, and no one comes out. So we're looking at each other, and I said, Bill, grab your flashlight. Let's go in there and see. I said, Bryce, stay here with the equipment. So me and Bill go in, and we walk up about 100 yards back and forth on the Appalachian Trail, and there's nobody there. Nobody there. So we get back out. Let's call Cindy, the psychic, find out what happened. So we call Cindy, and she's a little pissed at us. She's like, why are you calling me so goddamn late? I'm like, what are you talking about? We just got here. We just called you like 10 minutes ago. It's like 9:15. We got here at 9, Mm-hmm. And she's like, Al, check your watch. It's 11:30. I'm like, what are you talking about? And we check our watches, and we lost like 2.5 hours of time, right? So we don't know if we lost it with the UFO. We don't know what happened. But when we asked her about the family that we heard coming down the Appalachian Trail, she said that we were in a time-space continuum, and that family actually will be there tomorrow during the day. They're not there. They weren't there now, So we're just like, what the hell is going on? What the hell? We lost 2 hours of time. We're in a time-space continuum. What the hell is going on? But now I realize, okay, it's 11:30. I want to be at the campsite for 12 because everybody says the Bigfoots come out at the campsite around 12. So But at the same time, I'm taking photographs in a 360 with my little Sony digital camera because I'm doing this all night long, all night long. There's nothing in any of my photographs. But at one point, the photographs are just filled with orbs, all different kinds of orbs, different colors with faces in them, just hundreds and hundreds of orbs around us. And we had just done a Native American ceremony, a drum ceremony. And right after we did that, all these orbs showed up, you know? And they're like, this is crazy. And so we pack up the gear and we hike over to the campsite. We've been in the woods for like 12 hours now. And I don't know if it was Brian or Bill. Someone says, oh man, tonight's the night that we got to push the clocks back an hour. So it's really not 11:30, it's only 10:30. So we're going to have to sit here till 12 now, another hour and a half. And everybody is burnt out from the energy of these woods and everything we experience. And I'm like, oh man, there's no way I can sit here for another hour and a half. I am just physically burnt out, you know. Let's just hang out here for like a half hour. Nothing happens. We'll get the hell out of here. I don't know why we thought we had to change the clocks that night, but between three grown adults, we all thought the same thing. Oh man, you know, because nobody was thinking straight. Now, the game plan going in was after we were done, we were going to go to the diner, grab a cup of coffee and a bite to eat, and discuss what happened. Okay. This is something that we usually do when we're done with an investigation. We head over to like a 24-hour diner, get a bite to eat and a cup of coffee. And the whole night long, Bill is freaking out saying, these woods are devoid of life. There's no life in these woods. There's a 52-acre lake. There's no ducks. There's no geese. There's no nothing. We don't hear any crickets. We don't see any animals. You know, we're in these woods and we're 4 miles deep in the woods and there's no goddamn animals, no possums, no raccoons, no nothing. I'm like, will you shut up with the devoid of life stuff already? So because he just kept saying it over and over all night. He was freaking Brian and me out, you know? And so we're hiking out. We finally get to the mining road. And now we're only about a mile from our car. And as we're getting closer and closer to civilization, we're seeing all kinds of animal life. There's deers running across the road. Again, there's raccoons in the trees, there's skunks, there's all kinds of animals. And like, it didn't make any sense. The closer we got to civilization, the more animals we seen when it should have been the other way around. It should have been tons of animals in the woods, you know what I mean? So we can get back to the car. Again, the game plan was we were going to head to a diner, get something to eat. Everybody jumps in their cars and goes in different directions. Everybody just goes home. The next day, Brian calls me up and he's like, dude, I woke up, I'm spitting blue phlegm. And I got a small handprint, black and blue, on my chest. He goes, how are you feeling? And I was like, you know, it's funny you say this because I have a fat lip. I feel like I got something implanted in my lip, you know? So he says, let's call Bill. We'll get him on a conference call, see what happened with him. So we called Bill, and Bill's like, dude, I was freaking out all night. I had shadow figures at my back door looking in. I woke up this morning with a knot on my head like somebody hit me with a baseball bat. Now, nobody fell out in the woods that night. And it starts off as a mining road, then it goes into the Appalachian Trail, then it goes into a goat trail, and it's really, really sketchy place. So everybody took their time walking through it. Because I didn't want to. Anybody goes down, you're gonna crack your head open, break a leg or something, you know. So no one got hurt. So Brian says, "Okay, I'm gonna call Cindy the psychic, see what happens." because he's got a bump on his head. I got a fat lip. Brian's spitting blue phlegm with a little alien handprint on his chest. And we call the psychic. And she says, that place is insane. I've never, ever experienced a place with that kind of energy like that. She said, that place is a place of high strangeness. There are all kinds of portals there. She said, and I don't know about you guys, but I woke up this morning and the hand that I was holding the telephone with last night when I was talking to you, I have a rash from my wrist to my elbow. She's in Arkansas. How the hell does she get affected from us here in New York? And man, that was just the craziest night. When we went and did the evidence review, nobody noticed anything on the one photo I took of that stone wall where we had that thing run towards us. But we put it on Facebook and we put it out there. We said, if anybody's got any better equipment than us, because we're working guys, we don't have a TV budget. If you guys have better equipment, you see anything, let us know. So this dude from California calls me up and he says, yo, Al, the picture of the stone wall, you got a dog man behind the stone wall looking at you. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? He goes, I'll send it to you. So he sends me a picture. He sends me my picture, and he circles this dog man behind the wall, sniffing over the wall. You can see his eyes shine, his nose, his ears. He almost looks like he's got a pit bull head, you know what I mean? Like a square head.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sniffing over the wall. And I see this picture and I go, oh, this is photoshopped. There's no way this is it. Because when we do our evidence review, we put it up on the 60-inch screen TV, and there's usually 8 guys in the room looking at it, and nobody noticed anything, So I could run over to my little digital camera, pull out the SD card, I throw it in the computer, and sure as shit, it's there. And I was like, how did we all miss this? How did 8 guys in the room on a 60-inch screen TV miss this? And then like a week later, the dude calls me back and he says, that picture you took at the meadow with the little red maple tree, this little red maple tree, and it was small. It was only maybe like 4 feet high. Was the only tree that had any leaves on it, And I was like, yeah, I remember the little red maple, and I kind of seen it that night when we were walking over looking for the gnomes, and to me, it stood out because it was the only tree with leaves. Well, he goes, look at the photo of the picture with all the orbs in it. I go, yeah. He goes, I'm going to send you a photo. I'm going to zoom in. And underneath that little red maple is a Bigfoot on his belly watching us. Okay. And I said, okay, it's in the original photograph. That tree is just right at the end of the light from the flash. And so it's in the shadows. So it's in the shadows and the Bigfoot is underneath it. So there was no way when we had it on the 60-inch screen TV, anybody even noticed it, because we're looking at all the faces and all the orbs, different color orbs, different color faces, different sizes, all kinds of crazy stuff. So again, I get my SD card out of my phone, out of my camera. I go over to the computer, put it in, and sure as shit. And I think this was the same Bigfoot that came over to us and whooped at us and threw the stone at us. And I think he was just, again, this is all theory and conjecture. He was just hanging around, making sure the dog man that bluff charged us didn't follow us back over to the west side of the lake. I think that's why he was hanging around, you know what I mean? Watching us.
Right.
And it was just a crazy night. And I don't know if you know who Rosemary Ellen Guiley is.
No.
Rosemary is a researcher. She wrote a ton of books. She has a million books. She did a couple of different shows on the Travel Channel and Discovery Channel about the paranormal. She lived in Connecticut, not far from me. And we all made a pact that we wouldn't get regressed from that night, because nobody wanted to know what happened in the 2 hours that we lost, And I became really, really good friends with Rosemary. And I said, Rosemary, I want you to do me a favor. And she says, what? And I told her about that night. I told her everything I just told you. And I was like, I want you to regress me. I want to know if we really got abducted that night. You know, we lost 2 hours of time. And I want to know. And I said, and if it's not a bad experience, then I'll tell the guys and you can regress them as well. But if it is a bad experience, then I'll just keep it to myself and it'll never happen, you know? And she was like, okay, Al, I'm finishing up shooting in California. When I finish that, I got a couple of stops on a book tour. I just wrote a new book. When I get back to Connecticut, I'll give you a call. Okay. She gets back to Connecticut and she says, okay, give me 2 weeks to get settled in, and then you can come over and we'll do the regression. Said, absolutely, Rosemary. Just you and me and her husband. And she passed away, and I never got it. Yeah, so I never got the regression because she was really the only one I actually would trust with something like that, you know? So, but it was a crazy night. It was just, I mean, everything under the sun. And I don't know if it was because it was Hallows Eve or it was a full moon or if there was a meteor shower. I wasn't checking energies back then, you know what I mean? We were using all the equipment that we had for ghost hunting, dowsing rods, quartz crystal pendulums, compasses. We were using all the high tech stuff, the EMF meters and stuff like that. You know, a little bit of both worlds to see what would work the best. But just it was just such a crazy night, and it was just so nuts. And I mean, and I tell people this experience. People look at me like they think I'm for bullshitting them, you know. They're like, dude, did that really happen? And I'm like, dude, there's no way 3 grown men could have the same hallucinations all night long. You know what I mean? We've experienced all of this shit.
You mentioned with the noises with the kids. I recently just talked to someone that has a lot of weird activity, and they're over by, I think they're actually on the east side of Pennsylvania, but
Okay.
they're out looking for Bigfoot, but they've got a lot of weird UFO stuff now too, but they've also had a lot of weird shadow people, and they heard children. And they said the same thing, like, who the hell's going to bring their kids out in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night?
Yeah, in the middle of the night. It's just not going to happen. Absolutely, yeah.
So it's interesting. You mentioned that, and I literally just talked to a couple of guys the other day about that. So
yeah, and it was so surreal because we were trying to comprehend. First of all, it's at night. It's Hallows. Kids should be trick or treating, but it's already 9 o'clock. They should be they're little kids. They should be home, eating their candy, and you can hear them giggling and laughing, and it sounded like they were kicking stones. And then you can hear the adults talking, and you hear like a murmur. You couldn't understand what they were saying, but you could hear a murmur. And then when no one came out onto the meadow, it was like, what the hell just happened? Where did these people go? I was like, grab your flashlight. Maybe something grabbed these people. Maybe they need help. Let's get in there and see what's going on. But they were just nowhere to be found. It was just crazy. And then I was being pulled back late the following summer. I was being pulled back to that high ridge, but only this time I stayed below it into the swamp, and that's when I found the Dogman den. But I mean, it's just crazy that I had never taken or heard any reports of the Dogman being in that location. UFOs, Bigfoots, a lot of paranormal activity with the orbs and the shadow figures and stuff like that. But there was no reports of anybody ever seeing of a Dogman, none. And to think we were right over its den and not knowing we were there, and it's just crazy. Just gonna just absolutely nuts. That night was so crazy.
What do you think dogmen are? Because if they have a den, it almost sounds flesh and blood. But even like with Bigfoot, there's a lot of weird supernatural, paranormal aspects to them. So if it's not a physical creature, why would they do some of the things that they do? Why would they need a den? Why would they? Some people say they eat stuff. Other people say they don't eat stuff. So it's like, what is your take on the whole thing?
Oh, I think, well, I've been lucky enough to be invited to a bunch of symposiums over the years. And I've been lucky enough to sit with world renowned psychics. Okay. And my psychic will tell you she's not 100%, but she's full of shit. She's always 100%. Okay. See, I would put her up there with the world renowned psychic. But I've been lucky enough to say, and I have two questions for them. What are dogmen? Where do they come from? And they say the same thing to me. Every single one of them, including my psychic, says the same thing. They're interdimensional beings. They come here to hunt and feed because they're apex predators, and we have an abundance of food on this planet, in this realm. And that's what they do. And I've been inside dogman dens, okay? And I can tell you, their dens are nothing like Bigfoot dens. Completely different. It's usually bushes pulled over to make like a canopy, tied together with vines. And then what they do is once they get this uh, cover over them, they'll dig down like a coyote or a wolf, and they'll dig down and they'll push that dirt out the front of the den so it's almost like sloped. And what they'll do is when they're in that den and they sleep, they sleep below the ground level. So A, you can't see them if you put a flashlight in there. And B, if it's a windy night or something like that, the wind just goes over the top of them, you know? And I crawled into one, not knowing I knew what I was crawling into, but I had no idea what I was going to find, you know? And I started crawling through this, like it would look like a tunnel, okay, in the woods. I started crawling through this tunnel, and then I got to this den with this structure that was pulled together. All these bushes and trees were pulled together, and they were all tied really, really nice with these vines. And as I was looking at that and taking photographs of that, I went into the opening. I crawled up where all the dirt was, because like I said, it slopes, and never expecting the thought never crossed my mind that they dug down once they got in there, you know? And when I went over that slope and I looked down and I seen a giant hole, my heart dropped, because if that thing was there, I would have never seen it till it was too late. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh crap, Al, you're going to get yourself killed. You know, what are you doing, man? And I just backed out of it because it had a very funky smell to it, you know? And I backed out of it. And I told the other guys who were with me what I seen, and nobody else wanted to go in there and photograph it. They were like, well, we believe you, you know, we're not going in. And I was like, okay. But again, the Bigfoot stuff is much different, you know, and just, yeah, it was just crazy. And when we found that den in the swamp, I was being pulled to the swamp. And I told Brian and Bill, I said, whatever you guys do, don't pull me anywhere else. I want to stay focused on the swamp. I've been being pulled there all winter long. I don't know why. I have to go into the swamp. So they're like, yeah, no problem. We'll go with you. Because I was going to go even if they didn't come. I was going because I was being pulled. I had to go. And we went out there. And as we were getting close, maybe a couple of 100 yards away, something started hitting me with infrasound. And I started sweating profusely, and I was overheating. And I knew what was going on. I knew something was hitting me with infrasound, trying to stop me from getting to that den. I don't know if it was the Sasquatches trying to stop me from getting myself killed, or if it was the Dogman trying to stop me, but something was pulling me there. And I can see the den from where I was sitting. I was pouring water over my head, and Brian's like, eat these oranges, you know? And Bill is like, we should turn around. We should turn around. We shouldn't go there. And I'm like, there's no way I'm turning around. I can literally see the swamp from where I'm sitting. I'm not turning around, you know? This is not going to stop me from getting there. And then it passed. And we went and we started searching. We're searching the swamp. Didn't know what I was looking for. Nobody knew what we were looking for. We were just searching. And we even went up on the high ridge. We looked down towards the swamp, didn't really notice anything. We're looking around. We didn't see anything. We didn't see anything for like an hour. And I was like, there has to be a reason why I was being pulled here. And then I heard the little voice in my head say, jump up on this big rock. And I jumped up on this huge stone. And then a voice said, move the cattails with your walking stick. The cattails were like 15 feet high, man. I moved the cattails with my walking stick, and there's a trackway going straight into the swamp. So now I call Brian and Bill up, and we're all moving, we're moving. And Bill's like, oh, shit, I'm going in there. And he jumps off the rock, and he goes to step into the swamp because he wants to, because now we can see a den in the swamp, right? He goes to take the first step in, and he sinks down to his knees, and now he's stuck. We got to pull him out of the mud, and he zooms in with his camera. And when he zooms in with his camera, we can see through the viewfinder of the camera, we can see a giant dog man with a wolf head looking south. But you can see the silhouette of the head and the ears, and it's humongous, just humongous. And right next to him is the one that I believe bluff charged us. It looked like it was a hyena type, right? And it's looking at us and it's snarling like it's disgusted that we found its den, and it wants to just come out and kill us. And to the left of that is this creature. I say it looked like the creature from the Black Lagoon, but it was probably more like a reptilian kind of thing. It's standing next to the dog man that looks like a hyena, and it's holding two hands of two small, look like Sasquatches in the den. And we're like, what the? Now all of a sudden, the veil is lifted from our eyes, and we're finding arches and X and brens and breaks, and we're finding scat on the floor, and we find this thing that looks like a homemade corral, like with down trees, where somebody would run deer into it to ambush them, you know. And then we go up on the ridge, on the northwest ridge, and we look down into the back of the swamp, and there's a trackway coming out of the back of the swamp, going right down the center of the swamp, you know. And Brian's like, oh, we got to come back with a drone. I got to fly a drone into that den, and we got to get more images of this, that. And it was just crazy. And I think that's when the big one came to my house, because we found its house.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know what was pulling me there, you know, and I don't know what was trying to stop me from finding it. But for the first hour we were there, 3 grown men who know what we're looking for didn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, as soon as we found that trackway, it was like the blinders were off. And now we're finding all kinds of shit. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely crazy. It's crazy how you can be in a location for a long period of time and not see anything, notice anything, especially when you're looking for it. And then something happens in the blink of an eye, you see everything. It's just absolutely nuts.
Do you think you crossed over into their side? Like, I've talked to other people before, and they claim there's like maybe like a bridge that they come into ours, but sometimes we actually cross over into theirs. Maybe you couldn't see it before because it wasn't visible, but somehow you guys managed to get into their side of it.
Into their realm, you think?
Yeah. Like a version of theirs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't know what happened that day. I mean, like, everybody says, like, I know this, like when I talk to the Iroquois about the Dogman and the Bigfoot, and they really don't like to talk about the Dogman, but they'll talk about the Bigfoot and they'll say they walk between worlds. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if we crossed over into their realm, but it just looked like a parallel realm of ours. You know what I mean? That's probable. I mean, that's as good a theory as you could, I would guess. Maybe when we crossed over into their realm, even though it still looked like our woods, we couldn't see anything because we weren't locked into their energy or whatever. And then all of a sudden, boom, we found everything, and it's just, I don't know, it was just a crazy day, and I'm glad I didn't let that which ultrasound stop me from going. I'm not happy they came to my house 2 different times. That's when I went back and I made the deal with them. I said, listen, I know where you live. You know where I live. I won't come here. You don't come to my house. And I've kept that deal. I don't go to the east side of the lake anymore, or the woods. I stay on the west side with the Squatches. But yeah, I just don't know. I mean, maybe that's definitely a good theory that we crossed over into their realm, and that's why we didn't see everything at first. Maybe our bodies and our minds weren't synced in until we see the trackway. And then, as I said, once I seen that trackway, it was like the blinders were off, and it was that little voice in the back of my head that said, "Jump on the rock." And it was that little voice in the back of my head that said, "Move the cattails with your walking stick." And then it was like, da-da, everything was right there.
So that's kind of what I was thinking about, is maybe where they're from is basically like they come to our side. We can't see them, but they're still like, I don't want to call it the veil, but like maybe there's something to their world and our world. It's the same exact thing. I don't want to say like Stranger Things, but that show's popular, but there's like an upside down, which is basically the same version of our world, but we're not in that one, but maybe that's their version of the world. So like some of the things are still the same, but it's different on their end because it's not our world. That makes any sort of sense.
I mean, yeah, it makes total sense to me. Absolutely. I got you. But like I said, but when they're here, they're flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they can be killed. The same thing with the Sasquatches. When they're here, they're flesh and blood and they can be killed, but I don't know if they're here all the time. I mean, I'm assuming some are here all the time because there's so much food sources here, you know what I mean? Compared to maybe where they're from, maybe when they're in their world, they're not alpha predators. There are other things that hunt them. I don't know, it's a little theory and conjecture, but they're alpha predators when they're here. And I think the reason why both of them are here are for the food. It's just an abundance of food in this realm,
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I wish we had answers, but I don't. Your guess is as good as mine and anyone else's.
Yeah, it's all conjecture, speculation. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, nobody's got rock solid evidence of any of anything. We may have some photographs, we may have some audio and stuff like that, tracks, physical evidence like tracks, but it's not like somebody is living with them and documenting everything,
Right.
So I mean, it's amazing stuff, but like I said, you have to have the right mindset to do this stuff. My psychic always reads everybody I take out with me before I take them out, because there are times when I have to leave people behind because they have subconscious fear, and that fear makes them a target for something malevolent. You know what I mean? That may be feeding off that fear, and I don't want anybody to have anything negative attached to them and bring stuff home to their family. So she reads everybody and she lets me know who can go and who can't go. And sometimes it pisses people off, but I was like, listen, this is just the deal. I'm not going to put you in harm's way, and I'm not going to put your family in harm's way. And if you got a problem with that, then join a different team, because I don't want that on my conscience. I know people that have gone out and brought stuff home to their family, their children and stuff like that, and called me and asked me if I know anybody who could go there and take care of the situation. And I've actually had to send friends of mine who do me a favor and go to these locations and take care of this stuff for my friend, and they don't even know the people, you know what I mean? They don't know my guy. My guy doesn't know them. They're doing it for me, and I don't like to ask for too many favors like that,
Yeah. No, I get it. Well, we can probably wrap this one up. We've been going on for almost an hour and a half, but
okay, absolutely.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah. Would you like to let the audience know where they can find you at?
Sure. You guys could find me on Facebook. That's where most of our groups are, on Facebook. I mean, Brian's got us on everything, but that's where I'm usually hanging around. If anybody's got any questions or about anything and they want to reach out to me, they can reach out to me in any of our groups on Facebook, or they could just reach out to me personally at Al Santariga on Messenger. And I don't have a problem reaching back out to you and talking to you about any questions or just, anything in general. If you're curious about something, I just had a guy reach out to me from Pennsylvania, I think he was, and he wanted to go out looking for the Dogman, and I was like, why? Why do you want to go looking for the Dogman? And he's telling me all this. I said, tell me what you think you know. Just tell me what you think you know. Because there's a lot of people out there putting bad info out there, and then they're putting people in harm's way. I don't want you to go into the woods and put yourself in harm's way. Tell me what you think you know. And then when he told me, and I was like, dude, you are so far off. And I said, this is what you need to know. This is what you need. And if you still want to go out there, that's on you. But I don't go looking for these things. If they're out there, they'll find you,
Mm-hmm.
So I think I changed his mind. He decided, because they stopped talking to me after that, But there's a lot of bad info out there. And I won't tell people where my locations are. I don't know where these locations are, because I don't want someone going out there getting killed.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I've had people ask me the same thing about where I'm going to be out filming and stuff. I'm not telling anyone the exact locations, just because I don't want people going out there and screwing around with me if I'm trying to do something. But at the same time, I also don't want people going out there and getting hurt.
Yeah, no, you know what I mean? Nobody needs people out in the woods messing with them when they're trying to get evidence, and they're trying, their boots on the ground, and they're trying to be legit. And we don't need people hoaxing us when we're out there. Or, God forbid, you tell them one of your locations, and they go out there and they do some kind of black magic ritual. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then you walk into that shit a week later, you know what I mean? You don't know what's waiting for you. I don't want that crap either, know?
Yeah. So I know some of the areas we've went or on my location thing, they used to actually do satanic rituals, but someone got murdered out there a few years ago, and now it's completely off limits. So I don't know how we're supposed to go there, but we'll see what happens. Might go full guerrilla style.
Well, there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah. Not always legal, but if you want to get there, you could probably get there. You know what I mean?
There's always ways around stuff. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, Al, it's been a pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine, brother.
Yep. You have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.
If you'd like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tells, remember to send an email to tinfoiltellspodcast@gmail.com, or go to tinfoiltells.com and go to the contact section. Make sure to follow me around on all the social medias. And just remember, truth comes at a cost. Are you willing to pay the price?
I heard a story late last night about something lurking along the wood line. Huge footprints, strange lights in the sky. They claim it's nothing, but I know they lie. It's easier to laugh in my face, but something about this makes me say, what if it's real? What if they knew? What if the answers are coming from you? Spinning stories, wasting my time, hearing voices, is it all in their minds? They can call me crazy, but I just want some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They see a dogman walking, or maybe a mothman flies above the buried giants, hidden beneath the lies. They say it's just stories, it's all make-believe, fairy tales for the things we can't perceive. They want to keep us blinded, they want to break our will, but I'm not buying it, I'm not swallowing another pill. Force-fed poison, the lies were made to believe. What if the truth could set us free? Alien signals traveling through time, secret space programs erasing their minds. They call them crazy, but I just need some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They laugh, they lie, we all could die, but the signs are there if you open your eyes. Aliens, cryptids, demons, ghosts, the Nephilim too. What if it's me? Or what if it's real? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. It's all in our heads, it's all in our minds. These voices can't be silenced, the truth must rise. Tinfoil tales, it's pulling me through. What if it's real? What if it's true?